Hi, it's Joy Foster, founder of Techpixies, and you're listening to the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And we're doing a series on students of ours, alumni of ours, who are rocking it on social media. Really kicking butt and taking names is what I would like to say. No, we don't speak that way at Techpixies, but sometimes we get really excited about how people are progressing with their social media. And today, I have a guest who I think a lot of our listeners would love to learn about her story and also relate to something that they love, which is gardens. So Katie Townsend of Katie Townsend Garden Design, thank you for coming today to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, thank you, Joy. Thank you for asking me. I'm really pleased to be here.
Well, I'm so excited you said yes, because every once in a while you have a student who surpasses the master. And I would not say that I am the master, but what I would say is you have now passed Techpixies in terms of following on Instagram. And I know that is, having a large following isn't always the end game, but you are doing something right on Instagram, and you have grown quite rapidly the last couple of years. So let's talk about your Techpixies journey, and let's talk about where you are now and where you were when you started. So tell me about where you were when you started. What was your motivation behind joining Techpixies?
So I joined Techpixies. I was thinking this yesterday. It was April 2020. That joyous time, the beginning of that joyous time. Which is quite a long time ago now. So the reason I joined was I started my new business also at exactly the same time as a garden designer. So I'd always wanted to be a garden designer, or for many years, but didn't think I could do it. So I was on that corporate hamster wheel, can't get off. Finally made the plunge, and I realised to support my business, I really needed to be better at social media. So I would say I was probably starting at ground zero, if I'm being completely honest. I wasn't very good at it. I didn't really use it that much. So I'd started to use Instagram, but really haphazard, pretty rubbish. And obviously for something that's quite visual, very visual, as garden design is, I realised I needed to up my game. And I just I think it was your Facebook ads. They pinged at me and I joined your kind of free, I think you did a free week.
Yeah, so at the time you came in, we were running Social Media Supercharge. And then we changed it to Social Media Superhero Bootcamp, which you can still get from us as a self-paced option. And now we have our social media crash course. So every year we introduce a new thing that we encourage people to do in order to learn more about social media. So if you go to techpixies.com/crash course, you can join that. So anyone who's listening right now and says, I want to sort of get started on my learning journey on social media, the crash course is perfect. And you can watch that at your own pace whenever you have time, and it'll help you get up to speed. We're condensing the whole week down into 1 hour where you get a really power hour to get up to speed quickly. But yeah, you came in when we were doing the week-long program during the pandemic. And that was an amazing experience for everyone involved, because we had a lot of women in that week, and really helped a lot of women get started on social media. So what was the thing that made you decide, I actually want to invest in my training to then up my game on social media for your new business?
So I suppose it was, I just knew it was something that I absolutely needed to do. I'd also just finished my job, so I was on a contract. So I've prior to garden design, I did business design. And actually I looked at my CV yesterday. So I did that for 16 years before I started.
Wow.
And kind of formally being a garden designer. So I finished my last job doing that. So then I had some time. I was really, really lucky. I am really, really lucky that I was able to make that change, and I completely appreciate that. And
but
I think
for you, it was twofold. It was a career change, but it was also
yeah,
starting a business. And we always say
absolutely.
at Techpixies, we help people return to work, change careers, or start a business. And sometimes people come in to do one and it's combined with another. And so yours was a career change, which led to starting a business as well.
Yeah, and just knew that I needed to be better at it. Joined that week that you did, and it just completely drew me in. So I think I signed up maybe on the Thursday or something. Yeah, so that's what I did. And Techpixies gave me the total building blocks and foundations, everything I needed to kind of kickstart that social media that I needed to support my business. So
well, you have one of my favorite social media accounts to follow.
Oh, thanks, Joy. That's so nice of you to say.
Well, it's true. And here's what I think is great about your feed. And for those of you who are watching, I'm going to bring her feed up because I really want you to see it. And if you're not watching and you're listening, I'll try my best to describe it. And I would encourage you to try and go and watch the video on our website because we try and make these a little bit interactive. But I'll try and describe it a little bit. But one of the things that you do very well, and we really encourage people to do, is let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger, is to weave in your own, we talk a lot at Techpixies about the invisibility cloak. And a lot of women are afraid to put their own face onto their social media feed. And what we say is you've got to remove the invisibility cloak. You've got to become visible. And as beautiful as flowers are, the thing that gets people engaged the most is that people-to-people connection. And you do that very, very well. Obviously, you have a beautiful thing to share, but you've also been able to weave in some text. You've been able to weave in yourself, and I just think you've done that very, very well. So talk about the importance of that, of connecting with your audience from a personal level and not just from a product level.
So yeah, I think whether you've got a product or you've got a service, that's really important. And I think we know that from ourselves. When you're looking at an account, you want to know who's behind that account. I would say I could probably do more of that. I could probably be a bit better at it. But you'd absolutely want to know who that person is. It's also, I think, about building trust in that that person knows their kind of subject area. You get to know them a bit, you have a bit of chat, and it might be that you never use that person's service. So there'll be obviously loads and loads of people who I would never necessarily do a garden design for, but have a really nice connection on Instagram. And
you're inspiring them. I mean, I think what's beautiful about your feed is you're inspiring, you're teaching, you're connecting. How has it affected your actual business? Has it had a positive impact on getting customers and clients?
It has. So a lot of clicks through to my website come from Instagram. That's probably my main kind of feed into my website. So I definitely have got some clients who have seen me on Instagram first, which is great because then it makes it also the time and effort. You can start to see some return on that.
And have you launched on Pinterest yet? Because I would imagine that would be a really good network for you.
No. So I think I was thinking about what are some of the challenges of social media, particularly when it's just you as the business. And I think my main challenge is time, and I would love to do more. So I would love to do more on Facebook. So completely get the value of Facebook. I'm just not very good at it at the moment. Pinterest, I would love to get into Pinterest, but I
would also imagine YouTube would be a good one for you as well. But and there's a point, when I interviewed Karen Evans, it was really interesting because she started with one network and she went really deep on the one network. And then she added another one, and she added another one, and she added another one. But she added them in, she didn't add them in all at once. She sort of got one nailed and then got a system down and then added another one. But what was interesting was when she looked at her website hits, she was able to directly identify adding different networks to driving traffic, which was really, really interesting. What I love, I want to share, actually, I want to go back to that point because this is a great opportunity to talk about this. You have a great, let me just add this back in. You've got a great bio, and I think bios are really important. And I just want to talk about this for a second because you obviously have your name, Katie Townsend Garden Design, and then you've got the garden designer written into your you've got your username as Katie Townsend Garden Design, and then you've got your name as Katie Garden Designer. So you've got the garden designer in there, which is searchable, and that's what's really important for people to understand, that the name that you put here is searchable. So it's important to put things like that in there and have keywords. But then also what I love as well is you use some emojis in your bio. So for those of you who are just listening, she's got a plant. She's got a dog assisted by Snoopy. So Snoopy is a feature of your feed, and that is your dog. And everyone loves Snoopy, and they love all the different things you do with him. It's so much fun. But you also say, transforming your outdoor space into the garden you've always dreamed of. Revive your garden with my design and planting tips. So you've built up, you're telling people what you're going to post about. And I think that's really important. So when people know they're trying to decide if they want to follow you, they're checking that out. And then you've got your testimonials in your highlights, your projects, your services, and your about me. So it's almost like a mini website. But the part that I love the most, and I think it's really great if we can show this, and I can explain it to you if you're listening. A lot of people use Linktree. And Katie is one of the people who has shifted from Linktree to, putting her website. You used to have a little menu, didn't you? That you had like your own menu.
Joy. So I'm so sorry. Yeah, I did.
No, that's all right.
So do you know what I did? So I actually had a different link in my bio until yesterday. So I'd added a different link. So I went in to change the link. So I have got an Instagram page, which is a menu which takes you to different pages of Instagram. And do you know what I did? I absolutely couldn't remember how to link to it. So I need to redo that. So at the moment, the link I've got takes you straight into my website, which is great for me because I've just got that one.
Yeah, well, and I think your website, you've designed your website really well. Now, what I find interesting, and I'd love to know how this worked for you, but a lot of people who join Techpixies, they don't have their website set up. And then once they've got the courage to do all the social media stuff, they then find the courage to do the website. Did you do your website, or did you have someone else do it?
So I had someone else design it. So I wrote all the copy, and she designed it for me.
Well, it's a beautiful website, and it's
thank you.
Really well laid out. Is it a WordPress website?
No, it's not. It's on Wix.
Okay, great.
Much to a lot of people's horror. So yeah, I'm actually probably going to redo it on WordPress.
Well, I think if it's working, it's working, right? That's what matters, and it's beautiful. So, well, okay. So let's talk about, you've built up this wonderful Instagram following and community, really, because like you said, you've made some really great contacts.
Yeah.
So 2 years on, are you glad that you made the career change and launched a business?
Oh, completely. Yeah. Yeah. I have no regrets at all. I love what I do, which I'm really lucky. I love what I do. And I just love that creative side. So I think that's what I really was lacking in my last job. So it's still a kind of design role, but you're very, very constrained. And I kind of reached the point where I thought, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And I've got such a blocker that I thought, I don't know what I do want to do without thinking, I did know deep down, and I went to see a life coach actually who really helped me with that. But yeah, I love being self-employed. There are lots of challenges with it. You are everything in your business, everything. So that's, you know, that's a massive change. But yeah, I love what I do. I love working with all my clients, and I think I kind of caught it at a really good time. So it was right at the start of the pandemic, which you can imagine could have been really challenging, starting a new business. And obviously there were some challenges around that. But I think in terms of the gardening space, everyone's been at home, they've been looking out at their gardens and maybe started to think about them in a slightly different way because they've been using them more. So I've been very lucky, I think, in that respect. I've kind of caught that wave almost. So I think it would be really interesting to see how it pans out over the next year or two, and whether that kind of settles down a bit. But yeah, absolutely no regrets. Really pleased that I finally took the leap.
I have spoken to so many people over the years and different entrepreneurs, and when people have this burning desire to launch something and they finally do, they never regret it, even for all the life lessons it gives them. You talked about life coaching. We have obviously got life coaching and neuro coaching built into the Techpixies program. Did that introduce the concept to you, or were you already familiar with it? And what do you think that, obviously you felt it was important to continue with that because you then continued to work with a life coach. For you, was the course as much about learning the steps with social media as it was about the whole view of where you were as a person in your life and where you were going?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when I signed up and in that week, I didn't realize it was going to be more than that, if that makes sense. So it's so much more than learning how to use Instagram, learning how to use Facebook. And the life coaching aspects of the course did really help. I think particularly when you are starting a new business or starting a new job, those are the things that really give you confidence, maybe more confidence than you're lacking, and make you think about yourself in a completely different way. So I found that really beneficial, and it wasn't something that I thought I was going to get from the course. So it was really lovely that was part of it.
Well, it was really interesting. I was on a Starpod call last night. So probably after you finished the program, we introduced something called Starpods, which are mini groups within the big group, because we have a lot of women in our program. So at any given time, we might have 300-400 live women going through in terms of, we have some active and dormant and et cetera, but we have about 300 active at a time. So what we did was we introduced these Starpods concepts where there's a smaller group of people within the larger group. Now, you sort of naturally created a Starpod. I think you have a group that's on WhatsApp that connects regularly almost every day. Is that right?
I do, yes. So we all met through Techpixies. And you just saying actually, that just made me think. So I think that was the really good thing actually about the life coaching with Techpixies, is that you get to connect with other people and hear their stories. And perhaps, you go and I went to see a life coach before that, so maybe about 2.5 years ago. And obviously that's just me and my coach. So it's a very personal thing. I think the really great thing about the Techpixies groups is you got to hear other people's stories. And chat through. So we had our own sessions, didn't we, where we broke off into little groups and we could talk about different things maybe that are bothering us, or kind of confidence issues. And that was so good and so helpful, and making those connections was amazing. So yeah, I've met such lovely people through the course. And there are 4 of us. We've chatted this morning already.
I think so. Is Emma one of your Starpod fellows?
She is. She did actually WhatsApp me just at the beginning of this and said, "You kept that quiet, Katie. I can see you're alive with joy."
So there she is. We've got our own Starpod. Well, and that's what I love. We the Starpods are hugely effective at the moment. And I jumped on one last night because we're doing some, I'm just starting to jump in and listen to different Starpods and start to say, okay, where can we, improve? And I'm always looking for that 1% edge. Like, what can we do to do better? And it was interesting. So I asked them this question last night. I said, if we took social media away and you just had, the neuro coaching and life coaching, what would that do for you? And they said, no, we signed up for the social media, but that was a huge bonus that we had the life coaching, the mindset coaching, and the neuro coaching. And so, I think what it says is that women still need to learn social media. They still need the support in taking off the invisibility cloak and being confident in raising their prices. We have on Fridays in the main group, we have a post that it's just your Friday wins. And I love the Friday wins because there's always somebody getting a job. There's always somebody getting a new client. There's always somebody raising their prices. And, and people do it at different times and they get inspired by each other. And I think what amazes me is, with the pandemic, I can point to every single Friday, someone's getting a job, someone's getting a new client, someone's raising their prices. And I think there is that, when you see somebody else is doing it, it gives you the confidence to do it as well. And I think the Starpods, or that small group that you create around you I run a program called Dream Builders, and there's around week 9, we talk about something called Partners in Believing. And that's what you've created. You've created a group of people that are partners in believing. They believe in you, you believe in them, and you are going through this together. And I think it's really important for women who are in business to create those partners in believing. I have my own partners in believing, my own little WhatsApp group with a couple girls and women, and we talk about this stuff ourselves. And, when we face an issue, I say, okay, I've got this issue. How did you solve it? And, it's interesting what they say back. And there's a solution to every problem. But we have to come from a different way of thinking, because we can't solve the problem from the same level of thinking that we created it at. That's what Einstein said. He was pretty clever, I think. So.
And don't you think as well, particularly when you're freelance, self-employed or whatever, and it's just you, it's so important to have those connections, because it can be quite lonely, or it's you trying to work through a particular issue or challenge, and it's just, as you say, it's so good to get other people's input.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just have a bit of chat's always good.
Yeah, a bit of chat's always good. And I think it's that collective mind, it's a collective mind is way more powerful than the singular mind. And like you said, there's one-on-one support, there's group support, and then there's this sort of ability to create a smaller support network within the larger support network. And, I think that's really important. So tell us, where you see yourself, if you were to, think 3 years from now, what do you see for yourself and your business, and where you're going with it?
Where do I see my business? So probably not that much different to today, to be honest. So I suppose one of the things I've learned over the last couple of years is who my ideal client is, because clearly everybody has that. So that's been a really good learning. So I think that will stand me in good stead for the future. But just hopefully doing what I do now, there are certain things I want to change within my business. So it would be good to have some time and a bit of space to do that. And I think for me, probably at the moment, I would like to spend just a little bit, get a bit more balance between doing and running the business, if that makes sense, because there's all the other stuff you need to do to actually run your business. Mm-hmm. I would like to spend a bit more time on that. In terms of social media, so I would like to get into Pinterest, as you say. I mean, it would be ideal for my business, and kind of branch out a bit. But in terms of Instagram, is probably my favorite.
Yeah, well, and that's half the battle, doing something that you love, But also, I think one of the things that women, if you can get your pricing right,
Yes.
it is something that does allow you to bring people in to help support you. And, that's something I think that can make a world of a difference for the balance. When you can bring people in to do all those things. I remember the very first person that I hired was within the Techpixie world was basically a project manager. She was in charge of, she did effectively all of the administration stuff. So, she did all the interviews. She did all of the onboarding, and actually I just got to do the teaching. And I still worked really hard, but I was able to let some of the admin go. And really the second person that I took on, which probably is even more important than the admin, was the bookkeeper, because that was admin and bookkeeping were the two things that I could, if you get your pricing right and you have enough of a margin, you can hire people to help with those two things. And that gives you immediate time back, because they can do it. And one of the tools that I really like for helping train women is called, not just women, but anyone, is Loom. And you can record yourself doing things on your screen in short snippets, and then you can send those off to the person who's working for you, so that they know how to do it in the future, and you don't have to keep doing the things that only you know how to do. And you can create what's called an SOP library, a standard operating procedure library, which is just a list of all the tasks that you do that someone else could do. And I think when women, I think there's a lot of fear around hiring someone. But one of the things that I also say to people is, you don't have to hire full time. You can start with 5 hours a week, and you can have them just do the bookkeeping and just do invoicing, right? Which is that's one task that can make a big difference in your week, and take a lot of the stress out. So it's interesting, and you can teach people how to do what you want. What you do. You can film yourself showing them and passing that on. So I think there's also something people don't realize. A lot of local enterprise partnerships have funding to get your first employee. So you might get your first paycheck covered. That's what happened with me. I got for two of my people, I got that funded by the government for the very first person. So there's always opportunities there. But do you see yourself staying as a one-woman band, or do you think you'll bring on one or two people eventually?
So I would like to work with other designers. So I do work with another designer quite a lot at the moment, which is invaluable. I think, especially when you're in a creative role, it's just so good to chat through ideas and bounce ideas off someone else who's in the same position. What I have done, so rather than employing people, I completely have identified the things that I am not very good at. So I have an accountant. There's just no way I'm going there myself. So website design, those sorts of things, SEO. And I think it's finding those people. So I don't employ them.
Yeah, but you contract them in to do specific.
Yeah. So like me, they are self-employed. And I probably will do a bit more of that in terms of other things that it would be good to get someone else to do for me and with me. But that kind of collaboration thing, I'd love to do more of that. Definitely.
Well, I would imagine there's probably a Techpixie student who would love to help launch your Pinterest for you as part of their project for their social media management certification. So if that's of interest to you, let us know. I'm sure someone would be raising their hands vigorously to do that. And that's, I think, what we're finding is sometimes women will come through the program and they don't have a business and they're not working for someone else, and they want to get their social media management certification, but they need an account to work on. And so that's one of the things that we're starting to offer up is, okay, could we pair you with someone who's already gone through the program, who gets the mentality of how we, shift the mindset, all that stuff, and that would be willing to give you an opportunity to learn, because you've got some beautiful pictures, and it's really repurposing what you've already put on Instagram and just repurposing it onto Pinterest, and then driving people back to your website to work with you. So there's some you can even And I know I spoke to Pip about this, and apparently we talked about this in the 2020 Trends podcast. So if you're interested in going deeper on Pinterest, is anyone who's listening or watching, we have a great 2022 Trends series where we go through each of the networks. But when we talked about Pinterest, one of the things that there's been this debate about is, can you drive back to Instagram or not? Does it cause problems or not? Mm-hmm. But it's definitely something you can do. You can basically repurpose your Instagram content onto Pinterest and then drive it back to Instagram, particularly where you go into detail on something. But you can also drive it back to your website. And I guess the advantage of doing that is you then see traffic coming from two places. But Pinterest traffic is much more evergreen, if you will. So it's sort of, whereas Instagram, it's there and then it sort of disappears. Pinterest, when people go in and search for something, if it's really relevant, it will pop up. And that was very, very, very interesting, especially for a business like yours, where really the information is relatively timeless in terms of the way that you talk about things and the things that so then driving traffic back to your website in a timeless manner is very useful for you. So I would imagine that would be something that would be a really brilliant project for someone to come in and take what you've done on Instagram and just shift it over onto Pinterest and drive it back to your website. And I think, that would be an incredible 1 month test to see how it goes. So,
sounds amazing. And I use Pinterest all the time myself.
That's interesting.
So brilliant. It's such a great resource. When you're looking for kind of mood board pictures or just kind of general inspiration, it's just brilliant.
Well, and when I worked at Founders for Schools, I was their second employee, and then I was their only employee for a while. And I was in charge of social media. I was in charge of, all sorts of things. But one of the things that I realized when I was doing that was that there were some great teachers that had created boards for different activities and different age groups. So I think one of the things you could be creating on Pinterest is these, grouped pins around different topics, these pin boards, and then people will follow the boards as well as following you and following your stuff. So you could be creating the mood boards, and obviously you're creating them probably for your clients, but you could also be creating with your own content. You could be creating boards that drive back to you for particular types of flowers, for particular color schemes, for particular seasons. I think it's very exciting what you could do.
Sounds great. Yeah. I mean, there's so much I don't know about Pinterest, so it would be a perfect platform.
Well, I think it's just wonderful that you came on today, and it's wonderful to have a talk about, we have women who do all sorts of different backgrounds, right? They do, obviously, garden design is your specialty. We've got women who go on to become social media managers and consultants. We have women who do interior design. We have women who are in the social enterprise space, in the charity space. There's a huge, it's not just one type of business, it's not just one type of person, but it's wonderful to see something so visual do so well on Instagram. And I'm so glad that you were able to take the course and leverage that for your business. What would you say to someone that might be on the fence about making a decision whether or not they should join Techpixies?
Well, just do it would probably be my advice. You get so much more out of the course than you think at the beginning. So you learn about all the different social media platforms, which is great, and you can really build on those building blocks and foundations. But as we've talked about, the whole life coaching piece is really invaluable, and then the connections that you make and the friends that you make through the course has probably been one of the top things for me, and something which I'll kind of carry on for years. So I would just say go for it. You won't regret it, and you won't look back once you start it.
And let's leave our audience and our listeners with some top tips for Instagram, because you have been totally rocking it on Instagram. What do you think, if you were to pinpoint 3 things that you've done the last 2 years that have really helped grow the following and engagement, what would they be?
what would I say? So I think probably one top tip would be try different content. So when you're starting out, you don't necessarily know what might work with your audience, what necessarily resonates. And I think it's just trying things out and seeing how they kind of run. Another tip is don't try and achieve perfection. So I think you can go down a total rabbit hole of trying to get things perfect, trying to plan perfectly. So another top tip would be to plan. I completely fail at that, unfortunately. I started off with really good intentions around planning all my content, so having it, 2 weeks at a time. I don't do that anymore, but I'm kind of okay about that. I'm not going to stress myself out about that. But I think it's just doing what you can and getting stuff out there.
Yeah,
not
so done, not perfect.
No, yes, exactly. Not waiting for something to be perfect, just getting it out there and giving
Try different things. Done, not perfect. And what's your third tip?
What would be my third tip? So you can repurpose. So we've talked a little bit about repurposing. I've heard other people say this, but you can't say the same thing too many times. So you might think, oh, well, I've kind of said that 4 weeks ago or whatever. When you look back at your account, but you kind of can't say the same thing too many times. You might want to just change it up a little bit. Or, if you've got some kind of carousel content, you could potentially change that into a reel. It's just repurposing and not thinking that you need to come up with something new all the time.
And would you say a bonus tip is that if you have a cute pet, you should include them?
Probably, although Snoopy's involvement slightly tailed off. I noticed that the other day. But yes, obviously pets always help.
I love that. Oh, well, great. Well, I imagine we're probably going to clip that last bit for our Instagram feed that people will love your top tips because, and we will be pointing people your way to see what it's like to do it right. And, I really do think you're rocking it on Instagram. I would love to see you rocking it on Pinterest too. And I think, your next step is probably YouTube, but, one network at a time, right? But I do think you're a great example of someone who took the leap, had a dream to start a business, left a career that was a 16-year-long career to move into something that you would love. And, I want to applaud you for that. And also thank you for that, because we need women who inspire us, who go for their dreams and show us what's possible. And you've done that. So
thank you. That's so lovely. Thanks so much.
And I appreciate you coming on today. Let's just look at a few of the tips or the chat that's come in for those of you who are watching live. So Maureen says, love your Instagram account. Emma says, she wants to know where Snoopy is.
He's down there.
And she also reminds you that there's a lot of office banter as well on your group call. And Maureen says, great listen this morning. Well, I agree with that. Great listen, great account, great example of someone who's following their dreams. And Katie Townsend, I want to thank you so much for being here. Remind people where they can find you if they want to follow you and connect with you.
At Katie Townsend Garden Design is me. But thanks so much for having me, Joy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being here.